Ahoy, everyone. This is David Eugene Perry. And once again, I'm in the Zoom room with artists, writers, and just gosh darn interesting people that make an impact on our culture. And there is no one better known or better loved in the Coachella Valley than the person with whom I'm speaking today, Bonnie G, or to use her full name, Bonnie Kilgallen. Bonnie, welcome.
Thank you so much. Boy, what a great intro. Thank you.
I know now you can retire from politics, like JFK said,
That's it.
after
I'm
Marilyn
done.
Monroe's second happy birthday. So let's jump right into it. You are about to do a one-woman show
Mhm.
inspired by one of your musical icons, Dusty Springfield. And I understand there are some similarities between your life and Dusty's.
Yeah, just a couple. When I first read her biography several years back, I found it interesting. Well, let me back up just a moment. So Clifford Bell, who is my producer, is an LA cabaret producer. We had done some other things together. And he looked at me one day and he said, you should do Dusty Springfield. He said, because there are some visual similarities and some vocal similarities to, I mean, I'm not Dusty Springfield, but in our voice. And so when I read her biography, I found a couple other interesting things. Her mother's name was Catherine, that's spelled Catheri, but she was known by the nickname Kay. My mother's name was Carolyn, Karolyn. She was also known as Kay, which I thought was kind of interesting. And both of them had performing showbiz aspirations. And sadly, mostly because of the era that they lived in, those dreams were not as easily realized and were looked down upon a lot more than they are now for women. That's no, you're not supposed to do that. That's singing and acting is sort of like being a hooker. No, that's irresponsible. So they both sort of squelched those dreams and had a lot of frustration in their lives because of that. And I just found that really interesting. So.
Well, I mean, it is a serendipitous occasion. This is going to be May 3rd at one of the hottest new venues in Palm Springs, Revolution Stage. Not only is it a great venue, but I mean, let's be frank, it's got a bar inside. It's nice.
Absolutely. No, it's a wonderful venue. Of course, some people might know it was the old Zelda's, and then it was Desert Rose Playhouse for a while. Beautiful space, large theater. Yes, and there's a great big bar on the side so people can get their wine and come sit. And I've seen a number of shows there. Gary Powers has done a great job. They've revamped it a bit. The sound system is great, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do it there.
Well, one of my favorite Dusty Springfield songs is the inspiration for the title of your show, The Look of Love. As I think you know, because I've talked about it before, one of my hobbies is James Bond 007. And of course, The Look of Love, well, it's not officially a James Bond song because it was written, of course, for a spoof of the James Bond films, the original Casino Royale. But, that whole song to me encompasses kind of the Bondian era of the hip 1960s and early 1970s. What is it about that song and also about the music and just the tone of what Dusty has brought to music that inspired you to do this show? And is it all Dusty Springfield or is there some other stuff there too?
No, it's all Dusty Springfield. The whole thing. It's basically, we sort of tell in an abbreviated version in an hour, what you could do in an hour, sort of the story of her life and her career, along with the music sort of as the guidepost along the way. So it's all Dusty. The interesting thing about The Look of Love, she had some great musical collaboration with Backrack, and we talk about that. And he once said that he felt her recording of The Look of Love was the best anyone had ever done, which was really a high compliment.
Right.
Her music and I think things that people loved about her and her music, and they talk about it in the book, and also there's a documentary out. She was her vulnerability. I mean, she could have power in her voice. She did. You don't have to say you love me. Obviously, she felt that, but there was always this sort of vulnerability about her as well. And someone once said you were rooting for her. Sometimes you weren't quite sure if she was going to kind of make it all the way through the song, but she always did.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to agree with you that watching videos now of Dusty Springfield during that era, it was high wire act. Sometimes you were like, I mean, and it brought this incredible, to use your word, vulnerability, but real living in the present moment there with Dusty.
Yes. Yeah. And the other thing was, she sadly had a difficult life. She had a lot of ups and downs in her life. She was very sort of tormented about her. She was ultimately came out and admitted she was bisexual, but she was very tormented about that. And in those days, being a female pop star and saying you're bisexual was not, proved up. But so that really ate at her a lot. She was hounded by the British press, partly about that question. They kept asking, are you gay? Are you gay? She finally fled to America. She always wanted to go to Los Angeles. So she went to Los Angeles for a couple of years. Unfortunately, signed with some bad management. They weren't quite sure what to do with her. She didn't have a big hit. And she's spent a lot of time bored. She got into drugs and booze and depression and put herself in a psychiatric hospital. So she had big peaks and valleys in her life, but the music was kind of always there to save her, to pull her out of it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Bonnie Kilgallen, Bonnie G. What is the synopsis? Because those of us who have known and loved you and listened to you for years here in Palm Springs, we know your story, but for first-time viewers, how did you get to Palm Springs? What is it? Triple, quadruple, 5 times threat? You write, you sing, you dance, you host your own radio show.
Well, I'm not really a dancer. I can't claim that. I'm a singer who usually moves well, but I'm not a dancer. What brought me to California, I'm from Washington, D.C., from the East Coast. Grew up there in Maryland. One of my ex-husbands, married a couple times, Rich Kilgallen, who's a radio guy. We were in Maryland. He got an offer to come out here to Palm Springs to do a sports talk show. So we moved out here. So that's what brought me out here. And I got hired shortly after that to do news on K News Radio, which was associated with the sports station he worked for. I had done traffic reporting back in D.C. and been a singer and actress. So I did news on K News for about 13 years. I developed my interview show, radio show. Initially it was called Eye in the Desert, but then that died and Channel 2 got that name. So then I made it The Desert Scene. Always been an actress and singer since I was 10 years old. And just slowly started doing plays here in the Valley and started singing here in the Valley, and always done radio. And then about 6 years ago, I was asked to write theater reviews for CV Independent. So I've just been blessed. I mean, I love the Palm Springs area. There's so many great people here. It's a show busy town, but it's kind of a small town with a big show busy feel.
You're exactly right. I keep saying that Palm Springs is going through a real moment. And I started my career in San Francisco. It's where I met my husband, Alfredo. And I still love San Francisco and go back often. But Palm Springs is going through a moment. You're right. It's show busy, but it's small towny.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's the cost of living is reasonable. There's not 3 hours of traffic every day getting to where you need to go. But there's a lot of talent, a lot of talent. Broadway, New York, and LA people have come here, and a lot of them settled here because it is such an easy place to live. And there's just this huge cache of talent here, and it's just great. A lot of great musicians, and so it's just a really fun place to live as an entertainer.
Well, and one of the things that makes the desert in Palm Springs so special is you, Bonnie G, Bonnie Kilgallen. In our last few moments, is there anything that you'd like to say about your career, but also about this show that we're going to see? One show only, May 3rd at Revolution Stage. And I guess that leads me to my last question after you answer that question. Why just one night? Can you bring it back?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I did it a year ago at the Palm Springs Cultural Center in Theater 3, and we did 2 nights then. Part of it was scheduling. Revolution is really hot right now. They've got a lot of stuff going on. So when Gary said, come do something here, I said, well, I have this Dusty Springfield show. We had to find a date that they had open and that I could get my musicians together. So we'll see if it's a big success. Maybe we'll bring it back. Just that, come ready to have fun, to take a trip down memory lane of all the great music of the 60s with Dusty. She had so many great hits. You'll probably hear a few things you're not familiar with. Which is always good with a show like this. Some things she recorded, you might say, I wasn't familiar with that. But it's a tribute to her, and by the way, I think it was yesterday was her birthday. Yesterday was her birthday, April 16th.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Happy birthday, Dusty Springfield, April 16th. I'll remember that.
She would have been 85. But come to have fun. If you love 60s music, if you love pop 60s music, you love Dusty Springfield. By the way, Mark Caney on piano, Gilbert Hanson on bass, Jay Lewis on drums, some of the best musicians in town, and Greg Marks is my guest singer. We're going to do a couple duets together.
So all these wonderful musicians you've heard around the desert, including at the Purple Room, one of my favorite spots. I know yours too. So we have been speaking with Bonnie Kilgallen. Bonnie G, don't miss it. One night only. This time, a tribute to Dusty Springfield, The Look of Love at Revolution Stage. This is David Perry. With May 3rd, we've been speaking with Bonnie Kilgallen. Thanks so much, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Ahoy.